To be honest with you, I think that today's day and age of football, my biggest concern is tackling. It's one of those things that you don't get as many opportunities to do in camp. You do some individual drills with it, you do some live tackling on your own, but just the nature of the game now, there's not as much tackling done in practices. And probably for me, the space of the game and tackling is the thing that I would lay awake most about.
Luke, what do you expect to see from the lingering offense where you really don't know? You've got Coach obviously Texas Tech, and you've got holdover players. How do you prepare for the unknown like that?
I think that's what gives you some opportunities just to let them play, to do what it is that you do. And we always try to tell them it's about what we do, not what they do. Now, we have a good idea that obviously they're going to be up-tempo, they're going to spread the thing out, they're going to throw the football around. But what little wrinkles do they have? Do they have more Texas Tech? Do they have some of what they did last year? How fast will they go? How is the offense run? Is it a quarterback driven? Is it signal driven? Those kinds of things will, there's always a little bit of unknowns in that first game.
Hey Luke, I know that you're a defensive coordinator, but when you talk about a team that's like Bowling Green who threw it all over the field last year, what kind of challenges do you think that they're facing in installing that Texas Tech-ish 5-wide? Assuming that's what they're doing, I know you guys watch Texas Tech film, but the challenges of maybe not having the personnel and doing those things and installing a new offense like that.
You know what? That's probably not something I spend a whole lot of time worrying about. What are the concerns for them? I think they're going to do what they do. They're in the position where the new head coach is because he's good at what he does, and he believes in the system like anybody. Then they're going to implement it. They might not have maybe some of the personnel. They might have tight ends. They might not have tight ends. They might not have the tailbacks. Whatever it is. But the reality is they have a system, and I'm sure that it'll be a system that they're used to, probably the system we've seen at Texas Tech, probably with a little bit of wrinkles. So that's one of those great things about the first game, man. You go out and do what you do, let them play, because there's a lot of new things you're going to get.
Is there such a thing of telling your players not to get too distracted, because they want to distract you too with some of their stuff, don't they, Luke? They have a formation where they have two wide receivers on the line of scrimmage sometimes. At least they did at Texas Tech on the same side of the field. How do you get your players to, pay attention to what they got to pay attention to, not get distracted?
I think that's what offenses are doing today. And a lot of things, you see a lot of the jet motions, the fly motions, different things. They kind of call it eye candy. They're trying to mess with you. The tempos of things, all they're trying to do is get you out of position. So I think defensively sometimes it makes you have to be a little bit simpler. We got great players. We're going to let them play. So it's as sophisticated as you can get. It's not about what we know. It's not about what we can understand. It's what we can teach and what those guys can know. And I think as long as we take that approach, that's the head coach's philosophy in general. As long as we take that approach, give our guys the ability to play whatever comes out that gate.
Other than tackling, which you mentioned, what are you most intrigued to find out Saturday about your guys?
I think anytime you go out there young, new, whether it's an old team, whether it's just like last year, we had an older team, we had guys that played a lot, you're trying to look to see what kind of bonds are formed. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. We got great personnel, but it's not always about the 11 best, it's about the best 11. And those guys that work together, play together, fit together, that's the things that you want to see. When they get put out there in those situations, how do they handle things? How do they work together? We can get them straight on the sidelines, but what do they really do on the field at the times when it counts most?
What's the challenge in doing that when you've got a lot of guys rotating in?
Well, that is a challenge. There's some positives to it, but also there's some negatives. Building guys that camaraderie. Sometimes it's tougher at the linebacker spot. You get used to playing next to a guy. I promise you, Raekwon was really used to playing next to Joshua Perry. He's going to be playing again next to a guy that's a little bit different. Not that they're not best friends, they live together, but still, there's just going to be some different situations and different things. To me, that's the thing you want to be able to come out and see how those guys, they're great players. They're going to play fast. How do they bond together? How do they handle all the other little things is what is always the most intriguing thing, I think, in the first game.
Luke, at linebacker, what's been the biggest pleasant surprise for you guys so far?
I think the maturity. There's some guys that maybe haven't started, Dante Booker and Chris Worley, but are guys that, believe me, are very mature. Sometimes, when things come real fast and happen real fast, maybe like they did for a Darren Lee, maybe like they even did for Raekwon. Sometimes you don't build all those other little things and maybe even appreciate it as much as those guys have that have battled their butts off to get where they are. The Mike Hills, the Chris Worleys, the Dante Bookers, a lot of those guys that maybe have been behind a little bit and had to fight their way to get to the top. I think that's what you're really excited for.
What's your biggest concern looking at that linebacking core?
I don't know that there's a concern. I think the ability to maybe to be able to get some other guys in the game to see how they play, to find a way. How does Jerome Baker going to get in there? Chris Worley needs to play. Jerome Baker needs to play. Justin Hilliard needs to get out there and play. Craig Fada and Joe Berger, those guys all deserve the opportunities, and how do you reward them in the midst of still being the expectation to be the best in the country?
I imagine that's especially a concern on Saturday when you're going to be in nickel. One would imagine a great deal of the time.
No, I don't think so. So we don't play. If you've watched, we haven't played a whole lot of nickel. I mean, on third downs, we'll get into some personnel things, but we try to keep it as base as we possibly can. And that's kind of why we have had the guys like Darren and Chris Worley that possibly were safety guys that have converted a little bit more to linebacker. So it keeps us out of having to adjust a lot of times to different personnel.
How have you adjusted to meshing with Vecchiano, and what does he bring to defense?
A vast of knowledge. I mean, I think that's one of the things that through all of his experiences, from game planning to just how to manage a game, all those things. I mean, and for me, I mean, it's just like the fourth or fifth time that somebody else new has come in and to have the ability to not just pick their brains, but to enhance what it is that we do. And I think that's been the greatest thing. I say, hey, when he came in, Coach Meyer said, look, we're not trying to change, but we want to enhance. And he's definitely got ways to enhance.
Are the unknowns of Bowling Green a better situation than the knowns of Navy like you had in 2014?
I would trade that probably in some situations, but everything poses issues. And, Navy being a different issue something we surely don't see.
What's up, Bob?
Oh, gosh.
How you doing, Beth?
These guys are what pose the biggest issues. Navy poses some issues that we don't see on an everyday basis. Not that Bowling Green doesn't do some different things, but the reality is, our offense does spread it out. Our offense does throw the football. So we do get an opportunity maybe to see a little bit more of what we would see from Bowling Green than we did from Navy.
Luke, when you talk about the unknowns of the first game, you've gone through so many of them. It just seems like there's a lot more uncertainty going into this one with all the starters replaced. Do you think Friday night or Saturday morning will feel any different for you than some other first games you've gone through?
I don't know. I mean, I try to tell these guys in comparison. There's a lot of comparisons from this to this season as there is. Go 2015 and 2016. Go look at the history and go look at 2005 to 2006. There's a lot of comparisons from who you played in the bowl game. Both teams played Notre Dame in the bowl game in the Fiesta Bowl. There was 5 first-round draft picks in 2005. 3 of them on defense, 2 of them on offense. We finished very high defensively ranked in 2005. Lost 8 starters, so all those things are very similar to what happened in 2006, and came out with a pretty darn good crew. So we try to tell those guys and show them some of those things in history. You learn from it and you can repeat itself, but that gives us a lot of confidence in what we're doing. Will it be a different feel? Of course, but I don't think there's going to be any different nerves because you're just excited for these guys.